We'd like to welcome everybody here today. Hopefully you're here for the technical committee meeting for the Utah Lake Commission. That's what we're here for. I'm Richard Nilsson. I'm the chair of the technical committee. I'm also the public works director for Utah County. So I see a lot of familiar faces, maybe a few not so familiar, so maybe just let's run around the room. It's been a few months since we've met, so let's just do some introductions. And Eric, do you want to start?
Yeah, Eric Ellis, Utah Lake Commission Director. One quick thing, if you didn't get a chance to sign in at some point this morning, on the table back there is a sign in.
I'm Luke Allen with the Utah Lake Commission.
Brandon Snyder with Linden City Planning.
Clayton Wolf, just a local guy.
Nate Riley, Vineyard Town Council.
Kim Struthers with Lehigh City.
Chase Allen with State Parks.
Reed Price with Warren City.
Greg Beckstrom with Total City.
Dunn Steyerman, Forestry Fire and Scooters.
Terry Malkovich with Woodland Hills.
Nathan Ivey, I'm a resident of Benjamin, and I actually just announced yesterday that I'll be running for the Utah County Commission this year.
Hillary Ernst with the Division Water Quality.
Jimmy Barron with over the total amount.
We'd like to welcome everybody here today. Hopefully you're here for the technical committee meeting for the Utah Lake Commission. That's what we're here for. I'm Richard Nilsson. I'm the chair of the technical committee. I'm also the public works director for Utah County. So I see a lot of familiar faces, maybe a few not so familiar, so maybe just let's run around the room. It's been a few months since we've met, so let's just do some introductions. And Eric, do you want to start?
Yeah, Eric Ellis, Utah Lake Commission Director. One quick thing, if you didn't get a chance to sign in at some point this morning, on the table back there is a sign in.
I'm Luke Allen with the Utah Lake Commission.
Brandon Snyder with Linden City Planning.
Clayton Wolf, just a local guy.
Nate Riley, Vineyard Town Council.
Kim Struthers with Lehigh City.
Chase Allen with State Parks.
Reed Price with Warren City.
Greg Beckstrom with Total City.
Dunn Steyerman, Forestry Fire and Scooters.
Terry Malkovich with Woodland Hills.
Nathan Ivey, I'm a resident of Benjamin, and I actually just announced yesterday that I'll be running for the Utah County Commission this year.
Hillary Ernst with the Division Water Quality.
Jimmy Barron with Sartor Springs.
Lee Henderson, I'm representing Utah National Park Council.
D. Chamberlain, Sartor Springs Owners Association.
Michael Mills, June Sucker Recovery Implementation Program.
Sarah Johnson, Central Utah Water.
Scott Burke, Mapleton City.
Appreciate everybody being here today and coming out on a cold and snowy day. So our next item of business is the minutes, to review and approve the minutes from the October 14th meeting. Has anybody had a chance to take a look at those? Any questions, comments, changes, corrections? If there's no corrections, the motion would be in order.
I'll move approval of minutes.
A motion by Greg. Do we have a second? A second by Scott. All those in favor to approve the minutes of the October 14th Tech Committee meeting, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item number 3, technical committee appointments. I have been the chair of the technical committee now for the past 2 years. Mike Mills here has been the vice chair. It's time for a change, as we do systematically. So starting today, Mike will become the chairman, and we need to elect a new, or appoint, I guess is the right term here, a new vice chair. Is there anyone who has a desire to do that and volunteer, or will accept nominations? So who's not here that we can nominate?
Just to maybe add a comment, you'll notice if you look at the schedule, we've tried to have a chair from one of the municipalities or county, and then the vice chair be from the state. So
good point.
With that in mind, it would probably be best if the new vice chair is from one of the cities. I guess we can't pick the county again.
Yeah, county's out this time, so Yeah, so that is a good point. We have tried to make sure we have both the agencies and the communities represented, so.
Can you tell us a little about what the duties are before we start picking?
It's a pretty hard duty to be here. The way it works is you serve as vice chair for 2 years and then as chair for 2 years. As the chair, you basically run the meeting here for the technical committee meeting. You do go to the governing board meeting and present a short report on what the tech committee is doing. Also be involved with the executive committee. We actually had that meeting this morning. That's just kind of help with the direction of the Lake Commission as a whole. Work closely with Eric and his staff as the executive director. It's really not very time consuming. It's more the formality of running the meetings. So, Greg.
Richard, I'd like to put into nomination the name of Reed Price.
Okay.
I second that.
Totally forgot that this would happen. As I was walking in, I thought, like, this is January.
Exactly why you should probably be on. Don't nominate me.
Next time.
Are there any other nominations?
Or anybody that really has a hankering to take.
Well, we have a nomination and a second for Reed Price to be the vice chair for the next 2 years. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Reed, here's your chance. Reed, welcome as the new vice chair. And Mike, I'll turn the remainder of the meeting to you.
Tasting my own medicine.
And just as my first order of business as the chair, just thank you, Richard, for the past 2 years and leading our committee.
Appreciate it.
I really appreciate that. Okay, we kind of already did introductions. Looks like our next are roundtable updates from committee members. Are there items that anybody wants to bring before the committee before we move into the heart of the agenda? All right, Hillary.
So, a number of you are on this crossover group that we're calling the water quality subgroup. If you're not, if you haven't been getting emails from me and you would like to be, please let me know. If you have been getting emails from me and you've gotten this long chain from the scientists locally, I hope that you've been entertained and you learned something. And my apologies for whatever my role was. But we're gonna.
No, I think that's been good.
You think it's been good? Okay, because some people have hit their limit. So what we're gonna end up doing is taking that as kind of like a blog over to our webpage. So there is a Utah Lake TMDL or water quality study.
A question about it. Is there a way on that blog to like it or follow it so that we get an update? Because otherwise I fear that it'll just disappear onto the site and no one knows that there's been an update.
Totally. We are currently in conversations with our web designers because we just rolled out the Utah Lake webpage.
Okay.
And we are in conversation with the DEQ web designers to figure out the way that you can get daily updates, weekly updates.
Okay.
So it's something that's, that your email will get 3 new posts that put on this, super long correspondence. So, so that's, the webpage exists now. It has all the presentations for the November 10th meeting that we had. It also now has a bunch of literature associated with Utah Lake on it. And soon the work plan draft for public comment will be out. It's just right now been reviewed by the water quality subgroup. And if you haven't gotten your comments to me and you would still like to, you can have another few days. But otherwise, that's going to go on to the webpage as soon as I incorporate all the comments.
Can you tell us the webpage again?
I'm going to have to email it to you.
All right.
But if you go to I don't know it by heart, but if you go to DEQ's webpage, you can look up Utah Lake and I'll do it.
Okay.
And you can see our rebranded. We have a whole new webpage. And the last thing, which is exciting, is that in the next X amount of time, and you guys know how government works, we are going to be hiring a Utah Lake coordinating position. we talked to Eric about that a little bit more, but we are going to find creative ways to fund it. And it's really important to me that it's someone who lives in this area. So let me know if you know someone's really savvy and has a good knowledge base of what we do.
You looking for somebody with like a water quality background? Is that
Yeah,
kind of the?
that'd be awesome. That would be ideal. Someone, we're not sure if they'd be housed at the commission. Some of our watershed coordinators around the state are housed at NRCS offices. So we're trying to find a creative way to pay for this position through state and EPA non-point source funding. Maybe some partnerships with local government, maybe with the commission. We give you money already. You guys can give us some back. I don't know how it's going to work, but it's in the books. So let me know if you know somebody, or it's going to be a few months till this gets rolling out. But I found it to be really exciting because almost every watershed in the state has like a project coordinator, not Utah Lake. So our Jordan River coordinator is housed at a Salt Lake County, so we can't combine those two positions. So it's going to be exciting to have someone down here that gets to work on all the canyon projects. So that's it. So if you're not on the list, please let me know.
So it's project coordinator for the Utah Lake watershed as well?
Yeah, that's what we're calling it.
Okay.
Thank you, Hillary. Kim?
I just thought it would be something that the group might find interesting. So we adopted the Utah Lake Overlay Protection Zone. I think it was kind of a model ordinance that came out of this group we adopted a couple of years ago, and we just approved, well, it's all been recorded and everything now, but we implemented part of that along the north shore of our section, and we preserved about a 47, I think it's just right under a 50-acre parcel that'll be forever open space. If you're familiar with where Spring Creek Ranch is, it's just a couple of parcels west of that. But yeah, there's 50 acres at the bottom end of we held all the development up north of there's the big power transmission lines. So all the homes were clustered up there, and we preserved a pretty substantial chunk of property. So we were kind of happy to have the ordinance there to give us some teeth, and we're actually working on it. It's not Utah Lake, but we're extending that now. We're going to do a Jordan River overlay zone, and it has a lot of the same elements that we're trying to protect the river corridor now. And so yeah, anyways, just kind of I guess maybe a little success story from one of the cities. So
It'd be great to see some media coverage.
yeah.
Cool. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? Okay. That brings us to item number 4 and the updates on different issues, projects, and priorities. It looks like you're starting us off, Jason, talking about lake level and ice hockey.
The lake level, it's actually been several days since I last checked. We were floating around 5.1, 5.0. It's coming up slow. So, but according to what I saw, we're just hovering just over 100% of our snowpack. So,
What did it bottom out at this year?
5.8, 5.9, right in that ballpark. So this keeps up, I think we'll be doing okay. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. The ice depth, last I heard, last week, I've been gone for about a week, it was around 4 inches. With this rain and whatnot, and the color of the ice, that's why I have used at your own risk. Just makes me awfully nervous, but people have been going out there. So, and as far as activities around the lake, the only one that I've been asked to host is the Frigid 5K. It's a 5K run along with the Polar Plunge, and we'll be holding that here at the end of the month inside the park. Generally, Saratoga Springs holds some type of Polar Plunge, but I haven't heard any dates on that as well. So those are the only activities that I'm aware of.
We saw somebody had polished off a section of ice and were playing hockey out there on Saturdays, right?
Yeah, no, they're more than welcome. Usually we have 3 or 4 sections shoveled off. People like to come down here and tinker around with their ice hockey, and really enjoys the fishermen as they're stepping in and out of the ice machine. So, yeah, that's about it. That's all that's going on down here right now.
Has there been much fishing?
Every week's a little different, not great. Usually about a half dozen fishermen on the weekdays, and around a dozen to 2 dozen show up on the weekends. Not as good as Strawberry, but we're doing okay. Anything else?
What about dredging? We'll get to that. Never mind.
That moves to you, Eric, talking about Phragmites.
So the Phragmites planning has essentially been completed. I've been working with Aaron Eager. This year we're planning a pretty large project. Provo Bay has yet to be treated, and then also the Powell Slough, at least the segment that we're looking at. The combination of the two is 2,200 and some odd acres. We've worked with the WRI folks up at Department of Natural Resources, and they looked at the proposal and they're positive about it for our grant through them. It's almost a $300,000 project for next year that's planned, so we're very excited about that. That'll essentially complete all of the first treatments around the lake. In addition to that, there's 450 acres allotted in the budget for spot treatments, and we've been working with communities around the lake to pinpoint where we should do those spot treatments if they've been, problematic for citizens and so forth on views, and that'll include getting rid of some Russian olive trees and kind of clearing up some sections that are impeding views down to the lake and just filled with invasive species. So pretty awesome. This year they were able to do 1,600 acres, 1,500 acres, something like that, and they've just started with a contractor down at the southwest side of the lake to get that smashed. It's with a contractor that they had before, and he's trying some new methods with a different type of tractor, and they'll see how that goes. If it goes well, then we'll have them plow ahead and they'll smash about 1,200 acres. Is that what's down there on that corner? So making great progress. And as of this morning's executive committee meeting, we're going to also try to arrange to have a representative from each of the communities in the commission that deals with weeds to come down to a single meeting with Aaron Eager, and he can do a training on how to get rid of Phragmites from a community standpoint, so that you're familiar with the chemicals used and then the process as far as timing. When spray summer, squash it in the winter for best practices. So we'll be reaching out to figure out who those contacts will be from each of the communities.
Well, there's like your
training.
It's intended to be a training, much like what was done with Lehigh. They had a point person for Phragmites treatments, and I think that person is no longer with Lehigh.
I don't know who they dealt with over there years.
Yeah.
I think the idea is to have either your grounds guys or your parks guys, whoever will be the appropriate ones, come to that, so that when they see this nice pretty little plant growing right here, hey, that's great, that they recognize it as frag and know how to get rid of it, or Aaron can provide some resources there.
This is not to focus on the lake, which is on Phragmites as an invasive species.
Yes. Yep.
Eric, has there been any observation, conclusions, whether the lake level lowering and the shoreline receding has had any impact on the Phragmite growth where the shoreline used to be?
I don't know. I'd have to ask Aaron to see what he's observed in those areas. He hasn't said that he's seen a lot of regrowth coming back in, but I'll have to check him and see where he's at with it. So.
I've talked to him a little bit about it. There's quite a bit on the north end, but it just depends on the area. So we've always known that follow-up is going to be
Necessary.
So.
And over the last few years, they've really dialed in the best way to tackle treating it. And so in an area like at the very north end where it's waiting to be burned because of the proximity to the inlet pumps, they know that as soon as they get it burned, first thing in the spring, they'll come retreat it chemically, and then again in the fall they'll treat it a second time, which will end up being the third time since their first treatment. And so because of that immediate treatment sequence, they think that they'll be able to address the regrowth that happens more prolifically when it's after a fire. So I think that they're getting it down so that it can be as effective as possible, even though it still comes back sometimes.
As part of the treatment, do they reseed it with native at all, or at the very end of the cycle, or do you just kind of let that come back hopefully on its own?
They've done a little bit of reseeding, but generally speaking, they allow the natives to come back because it's no longer invaded with the Phragmites. Some of the native vegetation can take hold.
We tried seeding with some native grasses and plugs of hardstem bulrush, and it got washed away the next spring. So pretty less than successful.
Any questions about Phragmites? Okay. Moving on, carp removal. This to provide an update. Carp removal is continuing. Ice fishing hasn't been too great with the ice conditions slowly deteriorating. The 2 hulls that Illinois Fisheries cut out, they've since abandoned and are now making plans for open water fishing. There's a little bit of open water on the North Shore, and they're going to be trying to fish that over the next few weeks. Kind of disappointing because we always enjoy ice fishing. It's a good opportunity to get a lot of people out there. It can be pretty productive, but kind of out of our hands in terms of trying to control the situation. That said, the lake breaks up by early February. We'll be able to fish in open water, and that will be just as productive. There are now over 21 million pounds that have been removed since September 2009. Our final totals for 2015 were 3.2 million pounds that were removed, a little lower than where we were in 2014, but we're still continuing to make progress. And then funding-wise, we're good on funding until November 2016, and we're currently working on getting additional money through the legislature to fund another year to bring us through November 2017, similar to what we've done in years past. It's kind of where we're at. Are there any questions?
So what's the sense as to where the population is now?
It's declining. Every August we go out and do a big survey, several seining events, and what we track is the density of carp pounds per acre. And so when you look at that curve, it slowly goes down every year. It's not a straight curve. It boom, 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 kind of like a staircase going down, and we continue to see that.
And the original goal was to bring it down to...
We wanted to achieve 75% of we wanted to reduce it 75%. That's the number that the literature states when you start to see a regrowth of submerged vegetation. All of those studies were done back in the early 2000s. The June Sucker program has funded reevaluation of the carp population, for lack of better words, for 2016, where we're going to be looking at the age structure of the fish out here, what's their ability to rebound from the suppressed population that we have, and looking at different maintenance strategies to maintain this lower population. So that's kind of where we're at.
Maybe mention the good news about recruitment rates over the last few years.
So when we do the census of the population every August, one thing we do is we look at ages of fish, just a handful, not an exhaustive search. But again, and we saw this early on when we started the research, is we continue to see recruitment failures in the carp population. We think it's related to the low lake level right now. That basically 4 out of the last 6 years, there haven't been any new carp that have made it to become adults. So that's encouraging. That said, it is kind of like a ticking time bomb, because one would assume once lake levels come up and inundate a lot of the shoreline, that would provide some more refuge for those carp, and it could rebound quite dramatically. Thus, the study that we're or putting forth for 2016.
How was that presentation that you guys were able to go to the other day?
It was okay. We learned a little bit. What happened was CH2M Hill, they have an employee from the Midwest who has a lot of experience back there with carp removal. And the people that he had worked with, we actually had them come out a few years ago and see our lake and present to us. They're basically the experts on carp removal from the Midwest. And it was interesting. I don't know that he brought a lot of new information to the table, but it was fun just to share notes and talk about some of the thresholds they saw and how it relates to where we are.
When you've been doing your fish densities or seeing whatever you do to measure your progress, are you noticing any other fish that are filling the vacuum or increasing in their population?
Not through that effort. We really designed that seining to target carp because it was the best way, the best gear type to monitor carp. If you talk to fishermen, they would say there are bigger white bass, also bigger channel catfish out there. I don't know if that's because of carp removal. There is some connection, but probably due to a few different factors.
So when you do the count this year, are you going to try to pick some of that information up, or will that still focus?
We'll probably just fund our carp census. We really rely on DWR and their monitoring to try to pick up the changes in the other sport fish out there. They haven't been able to report anything.
Who are the legislators that you're working with to secure funding?
Mike McKell and Brian Green. Mike McKell is the one who's ran our request, as you know, the last couple of years. He actually asked that Brian Green do it this year. He's local here in Pleasant Grove, very aware of the project, and is actually anxious to help out and willing to do it. So we have our fingers crossed. We're hopeful. All the feedback thus far has been good, but you never know what happens in that crazy place up there. I know. Yeah.
Ryan, are there any plans to look at the vegetation recruitment?
Yeah, we've had plans to do that. So the last year we were able to do that would have been 2014. And that was what we were calling, not baseline, but kind of our reassessment of what the vegetation was. And then the plan was followed up from last year. The lake actually got too shallow for the equipment. They used a side scan sonar, and they weren't able to do those surveys. But from a June sucker recovery perspective, that's what we want to know. That's why we're doing this, is to try to bring back some of that submerged vegetation. And so that's very important to us, and we're planning to try to repeat that again in 2016. It is going to be dependent on lake levels.
Mike, what is the 75% number? What does that equate to in terms of total poundage?
In terms of total pounds, that would be about 32 million pounds.
Okay, and we're at 21 right now.
21.
What's the cost per fish pulling it out that way?
20 cents per pound is what we pay.
And we're pulling an average of 3 to 4 million a year, so hence 2 or 3 more years to finish that up.
But the 32 million is a net number, not a gross number.
I'm not sure I...
Wait,
It's what we catch on the net.
The objective of the 32 million pounds is net of what you remove minus what has been, minus the recruitment that has occurred over that interval.
Right. That number was thrown out as a target for probably financial planning. What we really want is the density. We want the density to reach a point where we're below 100 kilograms per hectare out there. And that number all comes from research on other lakes. So if that's meaningful on Utah Lake, that may be up for debate. Right now, we're around 140 kilograms per hectare, and when we started, we were above 350.
Whoa.
So it's been significant what we've done, and that's another reason for the reevaluation, to make sure that 32 million number is still meaningful. So what we're seeing in terms of a decrease, if we can maintain that trajectory, we're looking at about 2018 to where we would achieve that threshold.
As soon as you hear kilograms per hectare, you lose most of the public, so.
Both numbers, that's numbers I've heard all morning.
I hadn't heard that one.
Okay. Any other questions about carp removal? Okay. So moving on, Eric, do you want to talk a little bit about all of the different projects related to the money through the legislature?
Yeah, so the biggest thing here is that we need to make sure that Spanish Fork, American Fork, and Saratoga Springs get their paperwork signed so that we can move ahead with that. But those three and the Utah Lake Commission applied and received the grant from Forestry, Fire, and State Lands that came through the legislature last year. Spanish Fork submitted an application to do a trail alignment study from I-15 down to Utah Lake by Sandy Beach. The Utah Lake Commission put in for a site assessment and site plan for the Utah Lake Nature Center, and that's moving ahead. So that's out in RFP right now, and we're coming to at the end of this month. We will receive those proposals, and a subcommittee has been selected from the governing board to review the proposals and then take it through the process of getting those two assessments done. American Fork Boat Harbor put in for an application to do an expansion on the marina that would redo kind of how it functions for flow, and then add a park section with a beach, and kind of make some big improvements to make it more of an attraction, not just for boat launching, but for a community destination. And likewise, Saratoga Springs put in a similar application to expand. They have property kind of coming up from the Pelican Bay Marina that's mostly unused. It's just kind of little treed area and so forth, and it would expand so that there was activities to participate in up through there. An interesting side note, not so much to the north as much as to the west, kind of as you drive down into the park. They recently drilled a well a couple blocks up from there to the west, and the water that they came upon was 110 degrees. And so they're contemplating, and I'm prodding, that they add a little pool of sorts at the park there, so that when boaters and whoever visits gets out of the lake, they can go jump in the little hot spring. So that would be a neat addition over there. One that I'm excited about more than anybody. But
They're not going to use that to pipe hot water to the homes.
Wouldn't that be great? Heat all of the homes, reduce their energy bill.
What was the water quality in there?
On the Saratoga Springs, in order to treat the water for the use, it would be pretty bad on the pipes.
Could they use it as a boiler of sorts for normal water?
I just know that because there's somebody who drilled a well you're talking about, and then based on the water quality, just in order to treat it, the amount of chemicals would basically have negative effect on the infrastructure.
It's probably really high in salt.
Yeah.
Erosion. Is it in Saratoga Springs? That'd be awesome.
And very so.
Agreed. Anyway, that was a side note. So the expansion of the marina, they were approved for that grant, and so we're just getting paperwork back from them, and that'll allow them to add some additional work down on the lake and then some up into the park. So really cool proposals, and they have until July of 2017 to spend that, and so that gives them a little bit of time to come up with the rest of the funding and make those happen.
What were the dollar figures that they requested?
Both the American Fork and the Saratoga Springs projects were close to $1 million each.
What did they request from Forestry, Fire, and State Land?
One of them was $280,000, the other was $250,000.
And how much funding was available?
$500,000 total. And so we were able to, I think we ended up taking just a couple % off all 4, but essentially fully funding the grant for those 4. The one that didn't take place was an application for a campground improvement down at Sandy Beach. And that one, it wasn't so much that that the group disagreed with the project idea. They loved the idea, but the land ownership has yet to be finalized, and so they thought it would be better to hold off until next year, or this year, I suppose, 2016 or 2017.
Who's applying for that one?
The Parks, National Park Service, National Parks Council. It's through scouting. And so the Sandy Beach, on the other hand, is also having a project proposed through the county that would add some improvements down there. It would add a parking lot, some gates, restrooms, some items out on the shoreline of the beach that would kind of improve the accessibility for family use and so forth. And that one is slowly moving ahead. It looks like we have state funding secured, at least from the request side of it, for half of that project, and that's about a $500,000 project. And we're working with the county to secure the other half of that and move ahead with what we can as that becomes available. That was the result of a land transfer from the Nature Conservancy, and it's that transfer that's kind of held up the property question right now, among some other property questions there. But
Because the transfer hasn't gone through yet.
the transfer has not gone through yet. They've agreed to it, but the actual paperwork has not been signed and created entirely yet. So Sandy Beach improvements was the last one. We kind of just went over that. Where Laura Alt is the one that's working with the Nature Conservancy to finalize that deal. She's not here today, and I haven't heard if it's been finalized yet. I assume she'll let me know, so it's probably close, but not quite done yet. Oh yeah, we have for sure. Sorry, Ben.
She's still working on it.
Okay, great. And then you can just pass the torch to Jason or Mike.
Yes.
Jason's up next.
Okay. Dredging. Not much to say. We got a meeting on Monday with JUB and our projects guy, and we'll put it out to bid hopefully relatively soon, and we're still hoping and shooting for a spring dredge so we can at least salvage this season. But it really depends on how quick the bid goes out, gets awarded, and how quick the contractor can get people here on the ground, whether or not we fit into the June sucker deadlines of getting started. So a lot is still up in the air. We're still shooting for spring, but yeah, just wait and see.
Anything we can do to help,
I appreciate it.
let us know. In talking with a few people, unfortunately it wasn't you, so I don't know how much these people know. But if we could even get a cofferdam up, before that April 1st deadline, that
could help us maybe get an extension.
Yeah.
And I'll pass that along in the meeting if we can get something going before April.
Yeah.
There's a really good chance we can get an extension. Ooh, can I say really good chance? Or am I being too optimistic?
No, I think you're fine. The thought being that if we block it off,
exactly,
preventing any disturbance, and the disturbance would be isolated to the harbor that way, and I think we would have a good chance.
Okay, I'll pass that along. We're all pushing for it. We know it needs to be done. We'd like to salvage what we can of the season. But a lot is still up in the air. This is a little slower process than I was hoping for, but
What is the issue with the
So,
sucker in the harbor?
Anybody who applies for Army Corps permit is going to get the restriction on work near a tributary of Utah Lake, that no work can be done from April 1st to July 30th. That's just standard language that the Fish and Wildlife Service would issue. The thought that we've had is that if we could put up a cofferdam, that the idea has been to use cofferdams to dry it out and then dredge the material. So if we could have a cofferdam in place preventing fish from accessing before April 1st, we think that would give us the liberty to work through that period that normally they would shut us down.
But do we have any sense of what the historical activity of June sucker in the harbor is?
It's been enough that they'll make that comment. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
What is the depth and then what are we dredging to?
We're shooting for 3 additional feet down.
In that 5-foot range now?
Yeah. So I wish I had more information, but I don't. There's still a lot of stuff is still up in the air, and hopefully Monday will answer a lot of the questions.
So right now, out of curiosity, all of the other marinas on the lake, are they all approximately becoming inaccessible at about the same time? Especially the big 3, kind of American Fork,
yeah.
Linden, Saratoga.
I'm not. We're all in the same boat.
So
if anything, I might have about 2 inches on the other marinas, but really it's.
But meaning that 3 feet is going to be monumental as far as accessibility.
It's 3 feet will get us within a foot of the lake level just outside the outer marina.
Oh, okay.
So if we drop 3 feet, I really can't do much more than that because then we're dredging the lake itself.
Yeah.
At least in the immediate vicinity of the
Okay.
marinas. We'll take care of all but the worst drops for us.
Awesome.
So that's it. That's all I got.
All right, moving on to the nature centers, back to you, Eric.
Yeah, so the Nature Center, we're super excited about this. We've got the RFP, as I mentioned earlier, that's going to come back in 10 days or so. I think it's the 1st of February. And what that's going to do is we'll have a firm that does land planning and engineering look at sites along the east side of the lake. I don't know how far south, maybe Springville, Spanish Fork, all the way up to Lehigh. They'll look at as many sites as they can. They'll present all of those sites to the subcommittee, along with a list of criteria that the subcommittee should use as a narrowing guide. And that subcommittee will reduce the list down to 4 specific sites. And then that firm will analyze those 4 sites for in-depth scrutiny on land ownership, costs, accessibility to infrastructure, tying into transportation, those types of things, proximity to the schools or what have you. And then they'll present a recommendation on the top site, and then base that on prioritizing those top 4 locations. Once they've completed that, then they will create a site plan based on that particular recommended site that will kind of do a rendering of what the grounds would look like at the nature center, how it ties into the trails, and what the building would look like, and provide some approximate costs on what that building will be, so that we can start to form partnerships with all of the entities that expressed interest during the conceptual planning stage that Reed worked on. Our universities, the school districts, our state agencies, some of the Federal Mitigation Commission and so forth that would be interested in doing research down there, and form those partnerships and start figuring out how we can get it funded. Up until now, we haven't really had a good idea of what the cost of such a facility would be, and this will really help when we need to start talking numbers with these potential partners. So we're excited about that. I think that the final, I don't remember what is the final completion time. Was it June or something like that? It's about a 3.5 month process, so that they have lots of time to kind of get the steps done and involve stakeholders along that planning process. So we'll let you know how that progresses.
Do you anticipate any involvement from the technical committee, or your selection committee is all governing board?
It's not just governing board, and we would be interested in having a couple. The plan on the proposal was to have at least 3 governing board members, and then maybe 3 or 4 additional individuals So we had the suggestion to work with a fellow by the name of Dave. He runs another nature center up north through USU. I forget his last name now.
It's got to be the Botanical Center.
Yeah, he runs that. And then we have Scott Root from the Division of Wildlife Resources, and we have an open slot that we're looking to fill. So if there is a suggestion from this group on someone that would be good for that.
We have a program manager named Justina, who oversees our interpretive and nature personnel in our division. She would be great if you want her contact. Let me know.
Yeah, send it to me, please.
When's the anticipation that this will be completed? 3 months for the site?
Site analysis and the site plan.
Analysis, and then when do you think that?
As soon as we
You
can.
have a goal after funding, of course. A year? 2 years?
It's
It's an ambitious goal, but.
yeah. I would love for it to be done in a year, but realistically, I'm guessing 2 to 3 years.
The hope is to have, to generate excitement by having a real plan, not
an idea.
An idea.
Right.
So that's why they're making this investment, to generate interest and support for it.
Yeah.
Eric, have the decision-making criteria been established, or is that part of the process?
Which decision-making criteria?
For site.
Oh, we have our own. I mean, we've provided, as part of the RFP, we provided some general criteria, but we didn't want to limit it to our own knowledge, because that's why we're hiring a professional, so that they can help identify additional criteria that we're not thinking of. So we referred them to the conceptual plan, and it had some criteria that we should look for: transportation accessibility, proximity to universities, proximity to the lake and lake access and things like that. But we specifically stated, please bring your own ideas as far as criteria to the table, so that can be helpful to us. Yes, Lee.
Volunteer open position. I've got connections with universities and public schools and youth groups.
Okay, it's Lee Hansen, right? Thank you. Great. And I think that's all for the Nature Center. Do you want to talk about Lincoln Beach?
Can.
You're more connected than I.
Sure. We have a proposal that has come in. I don't know if it came to you or to the county or both.
Yeah,
so from the American Heroes Project is what it is. It's actually come to us through the veterans group that's housed at the historic courthouse. They would like to do a project that would enhance the Lincoln Beach Park, to include like a Veterans Memorial, to have some more beach area, to have some more camping areas, an additional pavilion, things of that nature, maybe another restroom. One of the things we have on here is to create an ice skating rink. I'm not sure about that, but we'll but we have a meeting. Commissioner Ellerson is setting up a meeting with this group here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to try to get into some detail on what they're looking at as far as how do we fund this project they're proposing. Are they looking to bring funding to it through donors, or how do they propose to put it together? And then also, how do we look at the long-term maintenance and operation costs of the project, once we add additional amenities there at the park? But it is a fairly ambitious project. It is something that they're looking at, not just for the veterans and war heroes, but also police, fire, EMS folks as well, to have some sort of a memorial there that would honor them and provide a place for their families to go and enjoy the lake as well as the general public. So.
If they're looking for funding, make sure they're aware of the motorboat access grant that's available through wildlife and state parks.
Okay.
Applications are usually due sometime in October, so obviously they're kind of shot for this year, but they can shoot for 2016. 2017.
That's through state parks.
Yeah, Craig Walker with Wildlife or Ty Hunter with State Parks. They both oversee that grant process, motorboat access. You can go to stateparks.utah.gov, find out more about that.
Thanks.
What are they doing to try to understand how what they're proposing interface of what we already have or what might be being planned with this lake park expansion and things of that nature, particularly if we get into a position where we got a couple different projects that are competing for funding with and support from the commission. I'm trying to understand how they fit in vis-a-vis some of these other things that exist or are.
I think that's part of some of the questions that we need to ask them, if they're aware of the project that we're looking at here, if this is something they've come up with on their own, do we look at putting everything all in one spot, or do we try to separate it? Is there some connection to Lincoln Beach that they have that why they want to go out there where it is kind of more removed from the population? So that's some of the questions that we need to find out from them.
And certainly from the commission standpoint, I don't think that we try to play favorites as far as access points, aside from the logical reasons that you would, you don't put all your eggs down in a beach that's so far removed from everything. But we would like to be supportive of all of the projects that people are proposing that would improve access points around the lake generally. So if somebody's interested in making Swede Lane better, we're excited about the fact that they're interested in doing so. And so if we can help make those happen and leverage out the limited resources that we have and get them done, then we will try to do that. I heard that's what made me think of it. So Swede Lane has been improved. And visibility, they chopped down a bunch of the trees that were right there as well, right?
Yep.
So.
And then we have some rocks getting dropped off in March at LeBaron Point. However, there's an access road people are using that's unauthorized. So they don't
Okay.
park in the parking lot, so they have to go up on the beach.
Send them in the right direction. Great.
Or just build some fences.
Oh, yeah, we're running road base.
So it's much, that one's much more accessible now, right? You can not only see, so for hunting, there's a lot more visibility. It used to be when you pull into that parking lot, you were encased with one tiny little road that led out to the lake, and now you have a pretty good viewpoint from that area there.
And it's more than double the parking area now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Last time we brought up that we needed to look at a video production for Phragmites to kind of highlight what has been done, what we're doing, and what we need to still do. We working with Aaron Eager from the county who runs that program. We put out a request for numerous bids to come in, and we've found a company that will do it for quite inexpensively. The county, with each of the projects that they do for Phragmites removal, they budget a little bit for mapping and other type things, and so they have it in their budget to cover that videography and putting it together into a nice. We'll be looking for a couple interviews from individuals that are familiar with the Phragmites program to talk about the benefits of it. So if you have any suggestions on who we could interview, that would be really helpful. We'll do just a couple short interviews. It's going to be a 30-second segment, 1 minute, and a 3 to 5 minute one. I'll wait for volunteers later. But yeah.
Right, moving on to communication strategy.
All right, I'm going to talk about that. Something we're trying to do within the next month or two is establish a strategic communications plan for the Utah Lake Commission. Over the past year or so, we've been doing a lot more on social media, and we've been sending out newsletters as of about 3 months ago. Just kind of share a lot more positive messages about the lake and highlight anything cool that goes on. So we're hoping to put together this plan to just kind of guide us to make sure we're doing all that stuff in the right way. So we've met with one group of PIOs from some of the cities and a few other entities on the commission, and they've given us some counsel. And yeah, sorry, PIO is Public Information Officer. We met with Nathan Schubach, I think is how you pronounce his last name, with Schwebach, the Public Information's Director for Department of Natural Resources, and he also gave us a great template that we're kind of using to put this together. So hopefully at the next technical committee meeting, we'll be able to present this plan to you with all the specific, our goals that we're going to set as far as the total number of people we want to be able to reach out to through all our social media tools and everything like that. So I think I've been able to include most of you on our newsletter emailing list. I'm sure there's a few here that I've missed. So if you haven't been getting our monthly newsletters for the past 3 months, please make sure your email's on the roll, and I'll make sure all those get added to our master contact list that we've been using to send that out. So I guess we just ask you to look over the newsletter each month, and if you have any feedback or suggestions, please let me know. Or if you ever have an idea for a story we could post on our website, or you see anything cool that goes on at the lake that we could just tweet about or post on Instagram, please let us know, because any kind of good content that's relevant and promotes a good use of the lake, we'd love to share that with as many people as we can. And we know that by 2040, the amount of people who are going to be living within 15 minutes of the lake is going to almost double. So we really want to make sure that as this population growth increases, that we're making sure all these new people that are going to be living here start off with a great impression of the lake instead of hearing it from the people who've been living here forever, who lived through all the nasty years. So please just let us know if you have any feedback or ideas as far as social media or outreach or anything like that.
Did almost every, who has seen the newsletter? We keep it nice and sweet, short and sweet. There's some really beneficial links we try to keep in each one. Ice safety awareness, things going on at the lake, things like that. Any feedback right off the bat from anyone?
I think it's a good thing to be doing. Kind of keep the information out there, communication. I think it's pretty good. I'm assuming you distribute it to the governing board members.
For sure.
Getting out to the local communities, I think getting pretty good with legislators alike. It's good to just give them that periodic reminder of what's going on with the lake.
Feel free to share it.
So we can put on our city website.
Yes, for sure.
Please do.
Okay. So that brings us to item number 7, any general comments from anybody?
I had a question, mainly for Walla. I don't know if you know anything about the status of the Northern Pike, or you guys been continuing to collect samples. In this season, you guys got a little freezer in the shop. I was wondering if you guys would continue to want people to turn them in.
I could field that for you. I actually had a meeting yesterday with the Northern Pike Committee, and they are hoping to do a similar effort to what they did last year.
So if I'm offered pike, continue to freeze them?
Yeah, that would be great. What they would like from everybody who turns one in are GPS coordinates, if they can have them. But even if they don't have that, they would just love to have any pike from Utah Lake. That study that was started last year by Utah State University, that will be continuing again this year. It's been interesting so far. I could talk for another hour about this, but last year, through all the different collection methods, this includes carp removal, every net that was set, we've been even fishing for pike. They removed 78 pike total. This was even what they collected from anglers in Utah Lake. It looks like they were illegally introduced maybe around 2011. They have the potential to be pretty devastating for all the fish species in the lake because they're pretty voracious predators. And the idea behind this study by Utah State University is to get an idea of just what their potential is for consuming other fish, which fish would they target in Utah Lake, how much disruption can they put on the food web out here. That study's going to continue for 20 years.
Lloyd catches them, does he keep them?
He does and turns them in, but interestingly enough, he caught 6.
Really?
In all of 2015. And where he's targeting carp, he's really not getting in the habitat that the pike are using. So, yeah.
So is that a bad sign?
That he only...
Meaning if he's not fishing where they would likely be, then 6 is an underrepresentation of them?
We expected more, even though he doesn't fish in their
really?
habitat. We expected him to get more.
Huh. That's good.
So are there some particular proactive measures beyond just the monitoring that are being done to try and minimize the pike in the lake?
Introduce a larger fish that eats them.
Not really
Sharks
yet,
with lasers on their
because
head.
we have ideas for maybe some control mechanisms, but don't have a good idea of where to utilize them. Because we don't know where the hot spots are quite yet of pike activity in the lake. We have, the two places we caught the most were deep in Provo Bay and at the mouth of the Provo River. And you would suspect that. All of those individuals were caught in February and March of 2015.
Oh, the Provo River makes sense. I didn't know there was a deep part of Provo Bay.
I meant
February when there was water. Good Tuesday.
Yeah, I didn't mean.
And they're coming out 20 to almost 30 inches long, at least the ones I've seen.
Wow.
Yeah, the
They're
biggest
coming out
one,
big.
the biggest one was 34 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 7 years old. So the assumption, the suspicion is that was one of the individuals that was introduced to Utah. They are reproducing, and we did catch age 0 pike, meaning that they're reproducing and surviving. And just a reminder, DWR does have the regulation that it's must kill. If you catch a pike, you have to take it home or turn it in for research.
If you meet with those people again, I'll mention it to Wildlife when it was kind of, the fishermen that turned in the pike liked getting like a little prize in return.
Yeah.
They got a kick out of that, so.
They're planning, I'll send an email to Chris Crockett and Mike Slater.
Yeah, I haven't seen them for months.
Yeah, they're hoping to
Mentioned it
do
to
the
them.
same thing. They reported this, that they were giving out, it was
It was
a
simple
nominal
little
thing.
lures and
Yeah,
just little-
like a $7 fishing lure, and apparently
I
that
thought
was
you were
quite
going to say smiley
motivating.
face sticker.
Gold stars.
With teeth.
Mention that to them, that they like getting that stuff.
Okay.
It was like, thanks for the fish, now where's my, okay, hold on.
Okay. I'll mention that too.
Please do.
Okay, anything else? Yeah, please.
Yeah, we have a lot of Eagle Scouts and what are they, conservation projects, Eagle Scouts. They would like to do on the lake, but they found it just impossible to actually do those things. I'm wondering where there's a lot of free labor, a lot of free materials that you could have if we can figure out some path for that. And the cities, most of them around the lake now have essentially a website where Boy Scouts can go and look for Eagle Project kinds of things. And I would suggest that the commission might do the same thing. If you actually had a list of projects that you'd like to have done, we can bring a lot of resources to that.
Do they want to adopt a access point?
That might fit with the Hornaday, it wouldn't fit with the Eagle kind of thing, but I'd be happy to meet with you and discuss what kinds of things would fit into those programs.
Okay.
I drove around the lake a couple weeks ago and put names on our sportsman access signs, so most of those have names now.
Oh,
We
sweet.
Sign the names
And on those same signs, we've talked with Mark Farmer and with the Adopt a Shoreline program that Luke's been developing, we can, if there are companies that want to adopt a shoreline and do maybe 2 good cleanups a year, we can have their company name on a sign that it is attached to that public access point, so they get a little bit of marketing recognition at the same time. Would say sponsored by whatever company, and we just let them know when the beach needs to be cleaned up, and they get their volunteer group together and go take care of it. So.
All right. Well, I think that having, well, just a reminder, we're scheduled to meet again February 17th, at 9:30 here in this room. With that, I would adjourn.
So moved.
Wait a second. All right, go ahead and dismiss.
Are we supposed to? Am I?
I don't know. I really.